Poptropica, a game all about exploring, solving puzzles, and traveling islands. It was created in the summer of 2007 by a company called Pearson Education and an author named Jeff Kinney. Now, if you don't know who Jeff Kinney is, well, you may know his book series, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I need you now tonight, and I need you more. If you grew up in the 2000s like I did, chances are you've seen Poptropica, maybe even played it or beaten it. At the peak of this game's existence, it was featured in Times Magazine as a top 50 website. Shit, even OnlyFans didn't make the list. That's how you know this game's good. But it seems like it suddenly vanished. Gone. Nothing. So what happened? Were other video games taking the spot of Poptropica, or did something more nefarious happen? Now, to figure out what happened to Poptropica, I'd first like to do a little bit of history on Poptropica and where it came from and when it started. So, picture this. It's 2008. You're in elementary school, and it's Thursday. You know what Thursdays mean, right? Yeah, it's tech day. That means for 1 hour, you guys get to go to the computer lab and play video games. Well, okay, video games not the whole hour. You, of course, have to do your Mavis Beacon. But after that's done, you get to go to your favorite website, Funbrain. But on this particular Thursday, you see an ad. What is that? What? Poptropica? Yeah, I was 8, so I didn't know how to say some of this stuff. Poptropica? What is that? So you look around, make sure the teacher's not looking, and then you click it. Now, when I first started playing, there was a world you were basically dropped in. This today is known as early Poptropica Island, but back in 2008, there weren't multiple islands. So in my head, I was like, whoa, this game's cool. There's like a museum to look at old paintings. There's balloons you can click on. It changes the color of your skin. You can play games online with other players or even hang out in the sewers with a goth baddie. Who doesn't want to do that, right? And honestly, from playing Funbrain, which are basically math games, this was an amazing change of pace for my 8-year-old brain. I also noticed there were 3 areas: the city area, the main area, and then the Amish area. I don't know. I didn't really go over there much. But either way, it was great. Although, after playing the same thing, there's only so much you can do. So I got bored. I needed a bit of a challenge. Hopped back on Funbrain. Got back to doing math basketball. But one day in the library, my boy Jake M comes up to me. He says to me, dude, you got to open Poptropica. Jake, bro, you sure? I'm in the middle of an insane soccer math game. I don't know if I have time to open Poptropica. Plus, I've already done everything. And Jake says, dude, you even got the jetpack? Jake, are you fucking with me right now, dude? Don't fuck with me right now, Jake. Yeah, man. All you got to do is get the golden egg. And then once you get the golden egg, you give it to the giant. And then all of a sudden, the librarian busted in. Excuse me, aren't you two supposed to be in class? After I figured out there's more to Poptropica than just jumping around, like you could actually get items, I anxiously awaited the rest of the day before I can get home and hop on my family computer. So the bell rang, I walked home, and I begged my brother to get off the computer because he was watching Ray William Johnson. And when he was finally done, I went straight to the Poptropica website. So I did everything you could. I got the golden egg, got the jetpack, got the flag, gave it to the Amish people, and I did it. I beat Poptropica, which was bittersweet because there wasn't a lot to do. So I was like, all right, well, that was fun. But then islands started popping out like nobody's business. Boom, Sharktooth Island. Bam, 24 Carat Island. Pow, Superpower Island. Yes, islands kept coming for the next 10 years until there was a total of 58 playable islands. The entirety of my middle school career was spent chilling around the water cooler with Jake M, talking about how to beat each Poptropica island. Shit, I didn't even go to recess, bro. I was in the library every day playing. And honestly, it wasn't even just my friend group. By 2011, there were over 75 million users playing. This was just 4 years after the game came out. 4 years! And honestly, a lot of these islands have very memorable stories and iconic moments. One major example, Time Tangled Island. Now, basically the whole plot of Time Tangled Island is you have a time machine and all these historical pieces are mixed around. For example, a piece of the Aztec sun, it's in Philadelphia, 1776. So when you go back in time to retrieve it, you find out, hey, the Declaration of Independence is missing. And trust me, we asked Nick Cage. He swears up and down he doesn't have it this time. So going through these different events, you really do meet a lot of historical characters, which honestly sneakily taught me a lot as a kid because of this game. I actually know what a phonograph is. I don't even know if most adults know what that is. Another island was Astronite Island. Now, when you get dropped into this island, you start walking around and it looks very medieval. But as you walk around, you see damaged buildings, gun blast, and then holy shit, a whole UFO. Fuck. So the plot of this one is basically you go to the castle, talk with the king and the queen, and they basically say our princess is missing. So now it's the character's job to figure out how to get her back. Now let me tell you, this island, it starts to get nuts. At one point, you have to go underground, talk to a cult, and that's just to advance the plot. Hey guys, nice purple robes, very tasteful color, because you guys could have gone with a way, way worse color. Trust me, I know, I just did the time tangled quest. I know how bad it gets. And then to carry on, you also need to find coordinates, so that way you can get in the UFO and actually space travel, because the princess has been kidnapped intergalactically. And this island did actually teach me a little about history too, and space. So, I mean, that's kind of the great part about these games is not only are they fun, they genuinely teach kids good information. And honestly, kids weren't the only ones who thought it was a good opportunity. That's why it wasn't too long before Ubisoft decided, hey, we should monetize this shit. So on November 6, 2012, Ubisoft teamed up with Nintendo and they created a DS game called Poptropica Adventures, which November 2012, that gave everybody about a month before the Mayan calendar ended and the world exploded. So plenty of time to play it. Thanks, guys. Now, the DS was not a direct port of the website, but it was pretty damn close. It actually took 3 of the most popular islands, Astronite, Superpower, and Mythology Island. And it kind of stripped these islands down, honestly.
Are you ready for a new adventure?
Actually, I'm not ready for a new adventure. Can you guys just give me 3 of the same adventures I've already done and sell it to me for $60, please? So, unlike Poptropica, where the whole point of the game is to go from island to island and have different quests, it's kind of like one singular game. So, really, what you're doing is you start off at a museum, and this old guy, I guess he is complaining that his museum sucks. I mean, maybe try cleaning it up first. But he insists that we need to get him more souvenirs. So we take the blimp and we go from these 3 islands that, like I said before, were already on the website, and we beat them. A primary difference, though, is the DS version is more focused on mini games, while the website version is focused more on talking to people. But, I mean, essentially, it is almost the same game. And I'm thinking here, why would you even buy the DS version if you can just play the website version for free? Apparently, a decent amount of fans thought that because this game was not very popular when it came out. And sure, you could play it to go, that's the argument, but dude, it was 2012 when this game came out. I'm sure somebody with a hotspot and a laptop could play it on the road. But Ubisoft didn't give up. About a year later, they made a game called Forgotten Islands. It was actually first released by iOS, actually, before they finally moved it to 3DS a year later. Now, the whole point of this game was kind of like the origin of Poptropica, where it came from. And the game's called Forgotten Islands. And the reason it's called that is because apparently all these islands used to be one mass continent. Wasn't called Pangea. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. But basically, you're learning about the origins of Poptropica. Now, a lot of reviews online are kind of killing this game. They're saying it's super, super boring and lacks a lot of the charm of the website game. For example, they say a lot of the quests that actually make you think in this version are kind of brain dead. And they just feel like wild goose chases or fetch quests. Again, this game wasn't very well received either. Now you may be thinking, Jeff Kinney sold out, man. He gave his company to big Ubisoft. Can you blame the guy who was working on Diary of a Wimpy Kid 1, 2, and 3, the movies? Dude, on top of this, he knew Roderick was getting older, and I could tell he was getting worried. The internet was freaking out over the new Roderick. Okay, Jeff Kinney was under a lot of pressure, man.
Can you explain what you're doing in this photo?
That's not me.
That's not you?
Nope.
Now, the failure of Ubisoft and the DS games actually didn't affect the website that much. And in 2015, Poptropica reportedly had 3.2 million users in 200 countries and territories. Unique users, that shit's insane. So, with all this popularity, again, why the fall off?
But what we feel confident about is that whatever the technology of the day is, there's always going to be a need for good content. And we think we've got good writing, good art, good character design. We think we do something that's not superficial. There's some depth and some richness to our storytelling. So we're very hopeful that that Poptropica will carry on for decades in different forms.
Now, you can see in that interview, Jeff Kinney was very excited for the new technology and seeing where it would push Poptropica, but he could not have predicted one thing. And that thing happened on December 31st, 2020. The death of Adobe Flash. This was first announced back in 2016, actually. And on top of this, Jeff Kinney said, "Hey guys, I'm getting too busy with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so I just need to step away for a second and focus on that." So Poptropica was kind of screwed a little bit. They had a ticking time bomb until Flash finally died, and they needed to figure out how to convert these islands. So in May 2017, Poptropica created a new game, Poptropica Worlds. Now, this was basically like a 3D version of Poptropica that looked more polished. It was created in the engine Unity. And when it was finally released, it wasn't received too well, actually. Now, part of this reason is because they had Poptropica, the original website, and Poptropica Worlds. And since the team was trying to balance doing both, they weren't creating very much content for Worlds. For example, when it was first released, it only had 2 islands and people can beat that in an afternoon. So because of this, it never really caught on. So with Worlds failing and Flash dying, Sandbox, the now current owner of Poptropica, they needed to figure something out. So in 2020, there was an attempt to transfer every island from Adobe Flash to Hax. And what Hax is basically just a modern replacement for Flash. With lack of staff and lack of time, only a few islands were actually ported over once Flash finally died in 2020. Now, even after Flash died, they could have transferred more islands over. It would have just taken more work, but one of the main problems were the islands actually took a lot of work to port over because of bugs and the fact that Hax is a completely different system than Flash. Basically, it was a headache, though, for these new people to basically reinvent the wheel that was Poptropica. In addition to this, the company was also quickly losing money. This was mainly due to the fact that kids were interested in other games. One example is a sister company to Sandbox called Suit Up Games. They started actually having staff come over to help them work on this game called Roblox. Don't know if you guys are familiar. So with Roblox taking off and Poptropica dying, Sandbox Games were trying anything to make money. So one attempt was in 2022, they actually made a Steam release of the game. And they were hoping the Steam version would hold people over while they finished transferring the islands. Ironically, though, one of the biggest complaints of the Steam edition was there weren't that many islands and they were missing a lot of the original ones that fans loved. In 2024, with everything crashing down, Poptropica decided to call it. They shut down Poptropica Worlds and they decided to give the rights to Poptropica.com to Cool Math Games. So now if you go to Poptropica.com, it takes you straight to Cool Math Games webpage. Again, this version still has many islands missing and it's riddled with ads. For example, if I want to go full screen, I have to watch a full ad. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Ad for big screen? Yeah, I'll show you assholes. I have control scroll. Oh shit. With all the success Poptropica had over 10 years, it's now just a former shell of itself. It truly makes me sad because I grew up playing these games. I guess part of the blame does go to Kenny, but can you blame the guy? He was fascinated with diarrhea, specifically diarrhea belonging to a wimpy kid. So really, you got to blame Adobe Flash. This is what set everybody into a panic. But it makes me sit and think now. When you talk to an old person, they'll say, "Oh, dude, you got to read this book. Here, I'll get it for you. Oh, dude, check out this movie. Here, you can watch it on Netflix. Dude, you got to listen to this song. Check it out on Spotify." But if I'm old now and I want to tell my grandkids about Poptropica, there's nothing I can do. It's gone. It's not on the internet anymore. And this isn't just Poptropica. This is Flash games in general. Club Penguin's gone. Fireboy and Water Girl's gone. And many other Flash games I used to play growing up, all gone. Now because of this, am I going to be the old man who sits and rambles about Poptropica and other Flash games as his grandkids plug into the Oasis and experience true gaming? On the other hand, though, maybe these distant games aren't a problem. I'm 26 now. I'm no longer in middle school. Times are changing and there's nothing wrong with that. It's always good to advance, maybe look for new games and yeah, sure, have fond memories, but don't be afraid of change. You don't want to be the guy stuck in the 90s. So that's why I think as I explore new games and grow as a Wait, what the fuck is that? What the fuck's Flashpoint? Holy shit, Flashpoint, I could play any Flash game ever, including Poptropica for free. Dude, fuck off about growing up and changing. I'm gonna just play the same 5 games for the rest of my life.